in, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the AFC East Summit. I am joined by three amazing hosts that I have this week for our AFC Summit Week 2 preview show. I have Dolphin Keith to my left, Anthony up above me, who congratulations to the New York Jets on winning the game against the Buffalo Bills. And I also have Chris from the Pats Nation that is representing America's team other than the Dallas Cowboys, because we're going to say America's team right now because the New York Jets have a matchup against the Dallas Cowboys this week. So we're going to stick with America's team right now, being the New England Patriots, because they don't have a matchup this week against the Buffalo Bills or the New York Jets. They have a matchup against Keith's Dolphins. So we're going to say America's team right now for them. But without further ado, I want to take a moment real quick to thank everybody for getting us to our 1,500 subscribers on YouTube goal. Each and every one of you has helped us to get to that 1,500 mark, so we do appreciate you. Our next goal is to get to the 2,000 mark by the midpoint in the year. So let's get us to 2,000, and then we're going to strive to get to 3,000 by the end of the year. So if we can do that, that would be amazing. Also, don't forget to hit the like button on our videos. It helps us get into a bigger audience. So we really do appreciate everybody that hits that like button and comments on the videos as well. But without further ado, let me run it over to, I'm going to start with the guy that won the matchup against the Buffalo Bills, Anthony, to give him his few moments of fame that he's going to have here and talk about the matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets and what you saw out there on the field, as well as give us a little bit of an update on what's going on with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. I'll start with the last part first. Aaron Rodgers has a torn Achilles. It's not a ruptured Achilles. So I guess it's supposed to like roll up the side of his leg, which is really disgusting. It's just a straight snap. He's going to be out for a year. He's signed with the Jets for 2 years. The reports, and there have been anonymous reports, so I don't know, but the reports are he said he's planning to come back for next year. Usually it's like a 12-month recovery time. Him being a quarterback and already not being crazy athletic, maybe he can come back. I don't know. Obviously, it's a gut punch. As far as the way the game went, defensively went basically exactly how I expected the Jets to play the Bills. Make Josh Allen take the underneath stuff because he's allergic to it. And then when he doesn't, when he gets a little bit frustrated, when he wants to make a play, just take advantage of that. They hit him over and over and over again. When I looked back on it, he had 41 dropbacks. They had 25 pressures. That's 16% pressure rate. It got to the point, like, if you go back and watch that tape, I haven't watched the 22 yet, but if you go back and watch that tape, they were literally throwing his offensive lineman into him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make too much out of it, but like, that defensive line looks absolutely just raucous. There are a bunch of animals up there. And it wasn't even until I feel like the second half that they even started like speed rushing with like Huff and McDonald. McDonald didn't even get a pressure. Huff got a sack though. But yeah, man, they were just throwing offensive linemen at him, pressuring him over and over again. And like any quarterback's coach will tell you, don't stare at the rush, but like, it's hard to miss your center falling in your lap within the first 1 second of you taking a drop back. So defensively, it was exactly what I expected. You can't put too many hypotheticals, but if Aaron Rodgers was in that game, that was probably a 20-point differential. I think you might have even pulled Josh Allen. You might have seen Josh Allen get benched by the fourth quarter just to save him from himself. Rough game for the Bills. For the Jets, what do we do? I don't know. The run game worked with explosives from Brees. Dalvin looked cooked. Michael Carter was literally only in for pass protection, which is probably what he's best at. Which is ironic because he's like 5'6" and 185 pounds. I need to see. There's going to have to be a tremendous amount of creativity from this offense going forward. Zach Wilson cannot be trusted to just drop back and deliver passes. He can't. You saw what happened. Milano just took it from him, and that was the most easy read in the world. 2 linebackers drop into the middle. Don't throw to the middle of the field. Middle field closed position. Terrible. We won on special teams. It was a total team effort. We would have gotten nowhere without the defense. You would have been well within your rights for the Bills to win that game 43-10.
Yeah.
So going forward, I have no idea. From the Bills' perspective, same thing that I was saying earlier. You need more weapons for Josh. Gabe Davis is not it. Stephon Diggs, phenomenal. Cook, he did okay. The Jets closed the holes. He didn't have a whole lot of room. I think his longest run was 13 yards, and then everything else was 2.2 yards per carry. You looked like you were getting a little bit going with Latavius Murray, but he only wound up with 2 carries in the end. Both of them, I think, went for like 5 yards and like 3.5 yards. I would have liked to see that, punishing the Jets for a little bit, just to control the clock, especially when you guys still had a lead. But you're going to need to get more weapons on defense. Vaughn's obviously going to come back eventually for you to rush the passer, so that's going to be a huge help. But Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Hollywood Brown, one of those 3 needs to make it onto your roster before the season's over. I do not want you to miss this window. This is how teams waste the prime of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, by just not having outlets for them.
Well, I'm going to ask you this, though, because I know I want to talk about the Jets, obviously, but I put a lot of the blame on Josh Allen. I don't put it on the receivers necessarily. Josh Allen threw this game away for the Buffalo Bills. I don't put it on the receivers getting open, because the receivers were open. If you look back in situations, there were underneath passes that Josh could have thrown to different receivers. I don't put it on the receivers. I put it on Josh making the wrong reads, not seeing what was out there on the field, and not taking the little check down plays. Like you said earlier, he didn't take the check downs because he's allergic to them. So if he would have taken the check downs, that's where we could have possibly stayed in the game a little bit more, put some more points on the board. But unfortunately, we didn't do that, and we really gave the game to the New York Jets in situations. I do think that the Jets did a good job with their defense to stay in the game. I also think that the Jets, when they had that one touchdown to Garrett Wilson, the way that not only Garrett Wilson and Zach Wilson also collaborated on the sidelines and talked about what can we do to move the ball down the field. That's one thing that I really thought that the Jets did a good job of. And then one other thing I was going to ask you, Anthony, is as far as Zach Wilson, do you think that he is going to be the answer for the New York Jets throughout the whole entire season? Or do you think that there's possibly a quarterback that's on the market that the Jets could go after? Because it seems like the Jets are going to sign some type of veteran quarterback that's out there on the market.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to do the last part first. Far as the veteran quarterbacks, the only one that even sort of makes sense for us to go after is Jameis Winston. Joe Flacco is not going to be the answer. Kurt Warner is not walking through that door. Like, our first plan was always Aaron Rodgers. Our backup plan was where we don't have a backup plan because nobody has that good of a backup quarterback to go through 17 games or 16 more games of the schedule. Like nobody does. So, is there somebody they're going to sign? Yes. Do I think that guy matters? No. Do I think Zach is going to make it through the whole course of the season? Of course not. When has he made it through 16 games before this? Zach is going to run. He's going to sprain his knee. He's going to get hit. Matt Milano almost took off his head twice.
Yeah.
You're telling me that guy's going to play for the next 16 games? What pissed me off the most yesterday, and I didn't talk about this on the stream after the game, and I didn't want to jinx myself when I was talking to my other friends, but last night, when they mentioned the inactives, you know how there's the new rule where you can have a 54th player elevated so that you have an emergency quarterback. They didn't have an emergency quarterback. There was no backup plan. So in like the second quarter, when Matt Milano took off Zach Wilson's head on that helmet to helmet that didn't get flagged, if he'd have gotten pulled for the concussion protocol, we're suiting up freaking Randall Cobb, because they decided that the practice squad players, the 53rd player on that roster, whoever it is that they consider to be the least important person on that player, was more important than risking them and potentially bringing up an emergency quarterback. That was unbelievably arrogant. Unbelievably arrogant. I have no idea if he's the answer. If they're going to have an offense, it's going to require the quarterback to be mobile, and he's capable of being mobile. But the fact of the matter is, he's never shown the propensity to stay healthy. Anytime you get your quarterback on the run, you do risk them getting hurt. There's nothing to indicate that he's going to be able to make it through the rest of the season. And I don't even know necessarily that it's the best thing for the team that he does.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I was going to say this last part about the Jets is looking back on the offseason that you could have made a decision where you re-signed Mike White, but ultimately you decided to go after Aaron Rodgers. And I know that Mike White is not the answer, but as far as a backup quarterback, Mike White is a pretty good backup quarterback in this league. So you could have had Mike White be your backup quarterback, but ultimately he ended up signing with Chiefs Dolphins, ended up going there. But now you got to look for another answer at the quarterback position, and you could have had the answer with Mike White being another backup quarterback that you signed. Now you're going to have to go with a guy like Joe Flacco, or possibly even look at the trade market for another quarterback. So looking at that, do you think you made the right decision to not sign Mike White?
Absolutely. The only answer to the question that Mike White is, name a random quarterback that has this jersey in the Hall of Fame for throwing 400 yards in his first game. That's the answer. He's the answer to a trivia question. Like, there's no difference between Mike White and us signing, I don't know, Matt Ryan, or us signing, like, I don't know who's left on free agency. Joe Flacco. Carson Wentz. Like, I might rather throw the dice on, I don't know, RG3 was putting his name in it. Like, Mike White is not he's had a game or two that he's basically the worst version possible of, like, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I would rather Ryan Fitzpatrick YOLO balls to Garrett Wilson than Mike White take checkdowns. Like, he doesn't factor into anything.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. I'm going to go over to YouTube real quick and go over the comments. I want to get to some of the comments because we've had a lot roll in while Anthony was speaking. So we do have Red, White, and Bills that is on here right now. He did say like and share as well as sub to the channel. He also said watching the film is eye-opening for the Bills. It's going to be a long night. And he said that our O-line did pretty well. Only one true sack. We forced you to blitz when you couldn't get home with 4. And then Mike Fortin from the Nickel City Mafia said that he believes Rodgers signed a 3-year, $112.5 million deal with the Jets with $75 million guaranteed.
It's a 2-year deal, and there's a void year at the back end of it.
I thought that there was a void year at the end of it as well. Red, White, and Bills also said that from what he watched for the first 2 drives, holes were there, and Cook had poor vision and chose wrong holes. As I said, our O-line won the day. And then he said that it's all on Allen, but he's right on Gabe. He didn't get separation. And then he also said this is for Chris. He said that congratulations to Macaroni Jones for being the NFL leader in touchdowns this year. And then there's another question that he brought up as well about the 54th player on the roster. He believes that it has to be an active player on the roster. So that's something I'm not sure of as well, if that is going to have to be somebody that's on the roster, because I do know if you have a player that's on the practice squad that you're elevating, they can only be elevated 3 times throughout the year and then after that third elevation, they have to stay on the roster for the whole year. So I wonder if the rules are different as far as that. I'll get some clarification on that after the show.
Okay.
And next week we'll talk about that a little bit more, because I'm curious about that. I know that is a new rule that came into the NFL, that you can have a third emergency quarterback, but I'd like to know a little bit more about that. But let me turn it over to the guys that have been a little bit quiet. I'll keep my mouth a little bit more shut throughout the show, but I want to turn it over to Keith, talk about his matchup that he had against the Los Angeles Chargers. And boy, I got to say, Tua looked pretty good throughout that matchup, and so did Tyreek Hill. I mean, completely dismantling the Chiefs secondary there. So talk a little about the matchup that you had, as well as if there was any injuries that you saw for the Miami Dolphins as well.
Well, first off, going over the pros of that game, Tua was spectacular. A few errant throws in the first half aside, the interception he threw was a bad one. I can sit here and say it was pass interference on J.C. Jackson, but ultimately that's not a ball that Tua can throw. He can't throw a jump ball to Braxton Berrios. That's just idiotic. And he got away with a couple of missed interceptions earlier on in the first half as well. But in the second half, he came out and he played his ass off. He was great. He was spectacular. That throw he made to Tyreek Hill, 50 yards in the air, stepping up in the pocket on that last drive there. I was floored. I was absolutely floored at that throw that he made. And it felt like he exercised demons from last year, because I discussed this last week. Tua's game against the Chargers last year was miserable. It was probably his worst as a professional. He was 10 of 28. Aside from 160-yard throw to Tyreek Hill, he threw for like 80-some yards. It was just a really bad outing. So it was great to see Tua kind of exercise his demons there, even if it was against a lackluster Chargers defense. Another positive for the Dolphins was the offensive line. Tua didn't take a sack in that game. He took very few pressures. I think a lot of it came down to Mike McDaniel going to great lengths to kind of protect the offensive line and kind of get the ball out of Tua's hands quicker for the most part. But it worked. Whatever he did worked. And Kendall Lamb, who took over for Teron Armstead, who was hurt in this game, deserves all the props in the world for keeping. He drew the Khalil Mack assignment, and it was Austin Jackson on the right side who drew Joey Bosa, and both those guys played really well. They played great games. So I've been talking about how scared I was of the Dolphins offensive line all summer, and they came out and turned in a really nice performance against a good Chargers pass rush. So props to them, and I hope they can keep it going. I'm not going to even say I'm optimistic. I'm watching. I'm watching, and I'm hoping that they can keep this momentum going.
Yeah.
Cons. Their run defense was dreadful. Their run defense was horrible. Austin Eckler was able to do whatever he wanted to do against the Dolphins defense. It was frustrating to watch. It was truly frustrating. Xavier Howard in coverage, 2 pass interference penalties, 1 illegal contact penalty. Could have been a hold, could have been whatever. Xavier Howard was terrible. You were the number 1 cornerback, Xavier Howard. Act like it. The pass interference against Donald Parham, that ball wasn't catchable. There was no reason to be tugging on his jersey. The illegal contact, you had good coverage. There was no reason to draw that penalty against yourself. All 3 of them were legitimate penalties. I'm not going to sit here and whine the refs, screwed Xavier. No, they were good penalties. The refs threw the flags, and they were right to do so. Xavier Howard just didn't. He had a bad game, and he's the number 1 cornerback now that Jalen Ramsey's out until probably December. Act like it. Be better, because the Dolphins need you to be better. These are the kind of penalties you expect Cam Smith to get, the rookie from South Carolina. These are the kind of penalties you expect Kader Kohu to get. Kader Kohu had a sack in that game, played really well, great in run defense, actually. Xavier Howard needs to be better in order for the Dolphins defense as a whole to succeed. David Long Jr., signing that I was kind of highly touting. Yeah, Fins were the most flagged. They were not a disciplined team last year, and it's carrying over into this season, and that's very concerning, Sean. Absolutely.
Yeah.
David Long, the Dolphins signed him away from the Titans in the offseason. I was expecting him to be great in run support. I was expecting him to be able to knife through the line and make plays behind the line of scrimmage. He was on the field, but he was basically invisible. 1 tackle in the entire game. He needs to be better. As a whole, Christian Wilkins wants a contract. You're not going to get a contract by playing the way you did, Christian Wilkins. You're just not. His biggest strength has always been run defense, and he didn't show up. None of the Dolphins' defensive line showed up. They need to be better against the Patriots this week, especially because Bill Belichick would love nothing more than to run the ball down the Dolphins' throats, keep Tua on the sidelines, keep Tyreek Hill on the sidelines, and just run the ball down their throats. And that's actually a recipe for success. That's actually probably exactly what Bill Belichick wants to do on Sunday. And if the Dolphins let him do it, they're going to lose. They're going to lose, and it's going to be bad. So they need to clean that up. They need to clean it up now.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there.
But all in all, I was happy to. Oh, one other con: Jason Sanders. He hasn't been reliable since 2020. He's the Dolphins kicker. He hasn't been reliable since 2020, and that missed extra point that would have put the Dolphins up 37-34 was egregiously bad, especially in that situation. It's a high leverage situation. The Dolphins needed that extra point in order to keep the lead at 3. So if the Chargers do drive down the field and kick a field goal, at least you're going to overtime. Yeah. That miss was backbreaking, and I was actually texting with Anthony when it happened, and I said the Dolphins just lost, and Anthony, maybe not, but I was the sky was falling around my head, and Anthony was trying to talk me down off the ledge, I suppose, but yeah, that was a bad miss, and Jason Sanders needs to be better yet again. So, it was a good win. I was thrilled they won. I was thrilled they came out with the victory and came up with the clutch sack when they needed it and all of that. But there's a lot of areas the Dolphins need to clean up, especially on defense. If they expect to compete for this division, if they expect to compete for a Super Bowl, they need to be better, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Keith. Everything you said about what the Dolphins did was exactly accurate from what I saw from that game. I'm going to turn it over to Chris as well. Give me your perspective on the Patriots and Eagles matchup. And I got to say, the Patriots really stayed in the game throughout the whole entire game against the Eagles. And I don't think necessarily some people were expecting the Patriots to stay in that game. They were expecting the Eagles to really dismantle the Patriots, and they showed that they are a resilient team, much like the New York Jets did this week. So they stayed within the game, and ultimately you did have a loss though, but I think there's a lot to build on for the Patriots. So give me your perspective from what you saw from the Patriots game.
Well, well, Brett, I think it was an excellent game from our standpoint. Honestly, it's kind of exactly how I expected it to go. I didn't really expect us to get the W this week, which is kind of sad to say as a Patriots fan. But I did know that our defense was going to stand up. They were going to be great because they're always great. So they really showed a lot of improvement. They had 3 sacks on Jalen Hurts, and they pressured him a lot throughout the game. It was beautiful. I think combined they only had about 280 yards through 4 quarters, or 260 yards through 4 quarters. So they look absolutely wonderful, and I'm happy to see it. I did always mention during the preseason shows that one of our biggest concerns was our offense. And although we did see a little bit of brilliance from Mac Jones throughout the 4 quarters. Ultimately they shot themselves in the foot in the first with that 2 turnovers back to back where they gave up 13 points. Now I don't know too many NFL teams that could give up 13 points in the first and come back, but they definitely showed a lot of poise. Mac showed a lot of control. He was going through his reads. He was getting his receivers. If you look at him, just the overall stats of the game, I think he gave the ball to about 8 receivers. So he spread the ball around like in a Patrick Mahomes-esque type of fashion. Everyone got touches. I think 30, 40. I think 30 was about the least yards a receiver I had. Just made some beautiful throws, some beautiful plays. So I'm really looking forward to the team getting it together. If they could limit the turnovers on offense, then they can definitely they're definitely going to have a chance to win a lot of these games this year and be the number 1 seed in the AFC East, like I predicted. So I think they're looking beautiful this year. I'm excited.
So I wanted to ask you, Chris, a little bit about what you saw from your new offensive coordinator. What did you think from Bill O'Brien's offensive coordinator job in week 1?
Well, Bill O'Brien's been here before, so just exactly like I said in preseason, I expected him to come in. He knew he was familiar with the system. He worked with Tom Brady especially during our undefeated season, so he's been around great quarterbacks. So I knew he was going to come in, get Mac Jones right, get the offense right. We needed an offensive coordinator badly. We couldn't win games with our defensive coordinator running the offense, and that was just the sad fact of it. So we can definitely see an increase. We can definitely see a step up in our offensive production. Mac Jones threw for 316 yards and 3 touchdowns. When he was still a little bit of pressure in the pocket, he rushed out of it, showed his athleticism. So Mac Jones really had a day. I'd give him the game ball, but I'm going to give that to somebody else. We'll get into that later. But overall, I think the problem that we really had was the offensive productions from a running back. And granted, the Eagles' defensive line is nothing to play with, especially when you got Fletcher Cox leading that charge. But we had 54 combined yards on 19 carries. So if we got a little bit more production in that department, I think we ultimately could have came back. And of course, one of the biggest plays that we shot ourselves in the foot in the 4th quarter, especially because we had 2 chances to come back. We were down 20-25. We had the opportunities to turn over the ball twice within the last 4 minutes of the game, but we just couldn't capitalize on it. And we had a beautiful pass out the rookie passing catch out the rookie Kayshon Boutte that would have gave us the goal line chance opportunity to win, but unfortunately, rookie mistakes, wasn't able to get that second foot down. But like I said, the offense shows a lot of promise this year, and I'm loving what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I really do think that the Patriots, did a good job staying within the game. And I'm going to go with a comment from Mike Fortin of the Nickel City Mafia. He said, the Pats had the ball late with a chance to win the game, and there was a great fight by them. I completely agree with what Mike's saying here. You had a really good shot at winning this game. Ultimately, you did shoot yourself in the foot a few times, and that's what happened. But a lot to build on for the New England Patriots, and Bill Belichick's going to figure out what went wrong in this game, and he's going to capitalize on it. So,
Brett, I live in the Philly area, and I listen to Philly sports talk almost exclusively. And Philly, the Philly radio guys, the fans, all of them alike thought this was going to be a roll the ball out there, and the Eagles are just going to coast to victory against the Patriots kind of game.
Steamroll them.
Yeah, and that was their attitude going into it, and it was. I mean, really, the Patriots showed some great fight, and it was it was good to see. You know, I mean, not good to see from my perspective. Good to see. I'm sure you were probably happy about it, but
Oh yeah.
but no, they showed really good fight in that game. And going down 16-0 early the way they did, and continuing to fight back, continuing to chip away against the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're better than I thought they were going to be. I don't think they're going to be the number one seed in the AFC the way you think they're going to be, but they are a better team than I thought they were going to be going into the season. I will grant you that.
Oh, I told everyone, you know, during the preseason that the Patriots were going to be the team to look out for. I knew they had the potential. They got a couple of receivers. They got the tight ends in the offseason. All practice, all training camp, they talked about working on that offensive line, and we could see that the offensive line came to play. There was only about a sack and a half from the Eagles' defensive line, which is a lot to say because, like I said, they have a great defensive line. But Mac Jones didn't look pressured at all. You know, and when he scrambled out the pocket, showed his athleticism. But I love what I saw. And yeah, you know, I'm just really looking forward to seeing how we're gonna congeal and get better as the season progresses.
Chris, I have a question for you.
Go on, Anthony.
I want to see if you and I are on the same page. What do you think is lacking from the Patriots offense right now?
Oh, that's a good question. Lacking from the Patriots offense, probably just a reliable number one wide receiver you could throw to and go and get it. You know, I think the fact that Mac Jones spreads the ball around. I mean, granted, he's making really quick reads and he's getting that ball out when he's supposed to. But I think if you had a go-to wide receiver like Tyreek Hill or Stephon Diggs or you know Travis Kelce and you know Justin Jefferson, then I think their offense would get that boost that we needed. Because I really don't look at Juju Smith-Schuster as a wide receiver one. And during our wide receiver one. And during our wide receiver and our wide receiver who had the most yardage and which I kind of expected was Kendrick Bourne, but ultimately he also had a mistake that cost us a pick six when Mac Jones sailed the ball a little bit and then he tipped it off his fingertips right to the defensive hand. So, but like I said, I think just a go-to wide receiver would have been great. If they could have got a little bit more production on the run, then we would have been even better.
But
yeah, I was
the
thinking
Patriots haven't had somebody that's a number one receiver since pretty much. You know, Randy Moss came in.
Yeah.
That's the last one I can think of. So it's not really the Patriots way. That's not what they like to do. But even looking back at Tom Brady when he was there, he only had, he had Wes Welker, who was a nobody when he started off and then became somebody. Rob Gronkowski, nobody really thought that Rob Gronkowski was going to be the Hall of Fame Rob Gronkowski that he was. And you also look at guys like Deion Branch and Julian Edelman. Those are guys that are no names that made something into themselves. That's kind of how the Patriots are. And you might have somebody that's on your roster that I'm not going to say will become a Hall of Famer, but somebody that's going to step up. There's going to be somebody that's going to do that throughout the year.
Okay, and to rebuttal that, because I know, and Anthony, I know you have something to say as well, so I'm going to let you get that off. But to rebuttal that, Mac Jones isn't Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a legend. I mean, ultimately, he could go to whatever team. Tom Brady in his prime could go to any team in the NFL and probably make them a champion. And he proved that when he went to Tampa Bay at the end of his career. But when in his prime years, he could have went anywhere, made any player great. So yeah, they weren't great players. They became big names from being on that Patriots organization during those championship years. But Tom Brady ultimately was the one who drove that ship and made them look great. So that's what I have to say to that.
The thing that I was watching. To go along with you, it was obviously a receiver that I thought that they needed, but it felt to me like they needed just one explosive playmaker, like somebody that could shorten a drive. It didn't necessarily have to be like a number one receiver. Like Edelman, you could throw the ball 14 times. He'd catch the ball 14 times for 47 yards. Like that's not an explosive playmaker, but like that's a consistent target. And I feel like you have a few in those, and Hunter Henry and Bourne in Demario Douglas. Demario Douglas looked really good for a 6th-round rookie.
Yeah,
he did.
I just the thing that I noticed that it felt like they were missing was one explosive playmaker, and I wonder if that had to do with Parker being inactive and Taekwon being on the IR.
We're on the same page for sure, and I definitely agree with you there. Maybe Parker might be the answer. Maybe he's going to also distract the defense and open up some running rooms for.
Parker's not the answer, Chris.
I mean, I know he didn't.
You
I
and I
know he
both
wasn't the
know
guy.
that. Come on now.
I know he wasn't the guy for you, but Ryan Tannehill's never gonna have an answer, you know. So, but at the end of the day, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is gonna eventually step up and to be that role because he didn't look bad. He looked good, and Jason Kendrick Bourne also looked really good. So I got a lot of hope for these rookies who come out there and make big plays. I got a lot of hope for the veteran receivers that we have. So I think just a couple more games to get together and work on the kinks and just like I said, come together as a team, and I think we're going to be a real problem in the AFC.
So one guy that I was thinking of for the Patriots that they could have signed this offseason that's a veteran guy that ended up going to another team is Adam Thielen. I felt like he would have been a really good fit for the Patriots way. He came from the Minnesota Vikings, kept his mouth completely shut with there's some drama between him and Stephon Diggs. He never said anything bad about him. I think he would have came into the Patriots, and I think he could have blossomed with Mac Jones as well. But ultimately, he ended up going to the Carolina Panthers. But I felt like he would have been a really good fit. And then somebody that after he ended up retiring, unfortunately, but a guy at the end of his career that could have went to the Patriots that I know you would love to see him, Larry Fitzgerald on the Patriots. I
One of my
think
favorite wide receivers.
He would have been a really good fit for the Patriots, especially with Mac Jones in his rookie year. I think he could have done a really good job with Mac.
Brett,
go ahead, Keith.
Well, no, like I agree with your Adam Thielen points and Larry Fitzgerald as like fitting in with the Patriot way, but I don't think they move the needle with the point that Anthony was trying to make. That's the guys that are explosive and they shorten the field. The guy who I thought the Patriots really should have gone after, and they did, Hopkins. Yeah. He would be the alpha in that receiving room, and he would be the kind of the more explosive guy who goes up and gets a pass that, a 50-50 ball that Mac Jones is going to throw up there. Thielen would fit right in with the culture, and Fitzgerald definitely would have fit in with the culture, absolutely. But what the Patriots do lack, I think, to Anthony's point, is a little bit of explosiveness, and Hopkins would have provided some of that.
I think the speed too is another thing that you can say. I think Anthony's kind of getting into that is, how you can take, a drive and go from, the 14, 15, 16 play drives that the Patriots are running versus, you make a play with a guy that goes deep down the field and takes the top off the defense. They really don't have that guy. And I think that's where Anthony's kind of getting into is that guy that can come out and make some big plays. And maybe the Patriots have that guy on their roster that, you talk about guys like Malik Cunningham that the Patriots are considering changing him over to a wide receiver. Maybe in a year or two, that could be an option. I don't know. I've seen more things from Bill Belichick that he's done, and I wouldn't put it past him that it does happen. I'm just saying it does happen with Bill Belichick. He's the master of being able to create these guys and take a guy that played, the flute in high school and make him into the Hall of Fame wide receiver that goes on to win 7 Super Bowls with the Patriots.
Listen, and I understand your point. I also understand your point with Adam Thielen. Give me Adam Thielen 3 or 4 years ago with the magnets in his hands. Then yes, I definitely take Adam Thielen. He can move that ball because he was a legend in the NFL. Everyone drafted him in the fantasy league. He made some outrageous plays. One of my favorite catches that he made was on the sideline in between, getting smashed in between 2 defenders, caught the ball, extended over the pylon. It was just amazing. Adam Thielen made some plays in his career. Oh man, I think I lost track of my point. Oh, yeah, Malik Cunningham. So I think Malik Cunningham eventually might fill into that role because if you really remember, Julian Edelman was also a quarterback in high school and college before he became a wide receiver in the NFL. So I think if they can get Malik Cunningham to get more acclimated to the offense and kind of running that running that Julian Edelman space where he can be there, he can make some good plays because he's very athletic, extremely athletic. So he can make some big plays, and then on the plays where you expect like a bubble screen, all of a sudden he's going to do a flea flicker back, and this guy's, and then all of a sudden you got a receiver down the field, maybe Juju Smith-Schuster burning a cornerback in one-on-one coverage. You never know. I mean, I could see, because remember, one of the biggest things about the Patriots back in their prime time was that they had a lot of trick plays that you never knew was coming, Yeah. So that's why I think we can see that. I can see that happen. Hopefully Malik can be that guy for us.
Yeah, I will add on to that a little bit. and say, of the teams that I can think of recently, the Patriots are probably the only team that I can think of that has been able to move guys from the quarterback position and turn them into a wide receiver or a tight end. You look at Tim Tebow. He was with the Patriots for a little bit. They tried him out at tight end. Ultimately, it didn't work there, and he ended up going to Jacksonville. And then you look at Julian Edelman as a wide receiver, and there's one other that I'm forgetting besides Malik Cunningham, but there's another guy that the Patriots tried him out at quarterback, and then he switched over to wide receiver, and he didn't make the roster. But
Chris Hogan
was another guy. Yeah, he was a quarterback. That's right. He was a quarterback that ended up becoming a wide receiver, and he had a good career. I mean, not the best, but it was a good career for what he did. You know, he became known as the first 7-Eleven type of guy before Cole Beasley really came into that role. And then now you have, a big name receiver that can come into the slot position and be the guy in the middle. It's great to see. But I'm going to move off of the Patriots and start talking a little bit about the Bills. And I'll keep it short and sweet because we've gone over the Bills so much on the Nickel City Mafia channel and also on the Go Bills podcast channel. But I'm going to keep it short and sweet and just say, what we saw was a tale of two halves from the Buffalo Bills. The first half, Buffalo did a pretty good job of moving the ball down the field, taking the check downs for what they saw out there on the field. And then in the second half, it was really Josh Allen just making careless mistakes by trying to press the ball down the field way too much. And the Jets defense did a really good job. Hats off to Jeff Ulbrich for what he did in the adjustments that he made to be able to put more pressure on Josh Allen, and not only putting more pressure on him, I think it was a few more blitzes that he did, as well as disguised coverages as well. So hats off to the Jets for what they did. And the Bills just weren't able to move the ball down the field. And it became evident that Josh was panicking. I think if you looked at Josh's face throughout the second half, he didn't have an answer out there. He didn't know what to do. And he didn't know what type of defense that the Jets were running. He couldn't figure out what to do. And I put a lot of that blame on Josh as well as Ken Dorsey for not saying to him, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to take what the defense is giving you, take that little check down throw that's right there, go for a short, intermediate pass to Stephon Diggs. But really it came down to the Bills didn't have the playmakers making their plays in the second half. And I don't attribute that to the playmakers. I attribute that more to Josh Allen not seeing the field as much. And if you look back on the all 22, when it comes out, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll look at it and go, okay, Josh just wasn't seeing the field right in those situations. And hats off to Jordan Whitehead getting 3 interceptions. If he played the rest of the year against Josh Allen, he'd have 54 interceptions a year, considered the best safety of all time, probably, by the end of the year. So might make him into a Hall of Fame safety by the end of the year. But unfortunately, the Bills did lose the game. A lot that we need to learn from, build up on, and a lot to correct. And I think that the Bills needed to take some accountability with the loss, and you saw that from Josh Allen. And I'm going to say this right now because we're on the Nickel City Mafia. I haven't lost faith in Josh Allen. I haven't lost faith in the offense. I think we can figure it out. I still think the AFC East is wide open, even though, you do have a lot of competition with the Dolphins and the Jets and the Patriots. And I think the Patriots are going to be better than most people expect. So, hey, I said it too, though. Don't get me wrong. I did say it. I said it in the preseason that the Patriots are going to be better than most people think because you have a really good coach. But I think we just need to correct what we saw out there on the field. And I do think that if we don't correct it, that very shortly there will be some type of issues in the locker room, much like what you saw in the Cincinnati game, and if we don't correct these issues fast. But we have the leaders on the team to make sure that this doesn't happen. And I think that a lot of people are going to take accountability, and I think it's going to be a different game against the Raiders in the home opener, especially playing in front of your home crowd, which is going to be very nice to see. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. I want to do our assessments of your team. We're going to keep it to around 30 seconds each that we do that, and then we'll also do our game balls. But first, I want you to give me a letter grade for your team and a quick reason why you're giving your team that letter grade. So I will start with Anthony, because you're the Jets are in first place in the division, and then I'll go to Keith, and then Chris, and then myself. So Anthony, give me your letter grade for the Jets in week 1.
A-.
Okay. Any reason, or do you want to just keep it at the A-?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it as an A- because late in the game when they could have, I thought that the play selection was really weak. I thought they showed very little courage when the Bills were dropping 8 and sometimes 9 men into the box. They would still just run it off the left side, which is the weaker side of our offensive line. I think they could have given Zach at least 1 or 2 shots to just fling it out up there to Garrett Wilson on a one-on-one. Like, there's very little courage in that. Even in the way Salah, end of the first half, I don't know if you remember, they, for whatever reason, called a timeout.
Yeah. And
then decided to just kneel it instead of, fling it up, do something. Like, it was just, it was an A-. A+ from both sides of the team, from all 3 phases in terms of effort. But there seems to be some inconsistency and a little bit of lack of courage at the end. I don't completely blame them. This is what happens with a defensive coach. Defensive coaches get a little bit conservative, a little bit scared sometimes. They want to put it on the defense, and that wasn't the wrong thing, but sometimes, got to risk it for the biscuit.
So I want to ask you one quick thing to add on to what you're saying is, you said conservative for the defense of the Jets. Do you think that the offense of the Jets, especially after Aaron Rodgers was out for the game, do you think they're a little bit conservative with Zach Wilson?
Oh, I don't think they were conservative on defense. I think they was completely conservative on offense. That's what I was referring to.
Okay, I was just saying.
Yeah,
I think
I'll give you an example. All right. The very last play of the game when they were going to kick the field goal, they already had the lead. There was like 2 minutes left in the game, 1:51 left in the game. First thing I said to my friends when we were in our chat was, "Why not just fake a field goal? It's 5 yards. Slip the dagger in. You don't even need the touchdown. All you need to do is pick up the 5 yards, get the first down. The Bills are already down to 1 timeout.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they have 1:51 to drive from the 15-yard line, 10-yard line, wherever we were. Like, take the field goal.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
They're going to be selling out for the block anyway.
Yeah, and look at our special teams. We didn't do a good job on special teams, so
take a risk.
I agree. Keith, give me your assessment of the Dolphins. What's your grade that you're going to give them?
A C.
Okay.
The offense gets an A-. The defense gets a D+, and I feel like I'm being generous with giving them a D+. That's more than they deserve for that effort. They get the D+. They get the plus on that D because they sacked Herbert at the end of the game. That's why they get the plus. Otherwise, they were dreadful. So they get a C as a team. They need to be better. They can be better. They can be better. They demonstrated that they can be better. And on defense, especially, the sum of their parts needs to equal their talent level. So they can get there. Vic Fangio needs to coach these guys up. I believe Vic Fangio can coach these guys up. But offensively, they showed what they can do. And defensively, they need to do better. So I give them a C. And I hope they improve on that.
Chris, give me your assessment of the Patriots.
I'm going to give the Patriots a B+. Ultimately, their defense was amazing. I didn't see too many mistakes and errors that they gave away. that they made during the game. I love to see it. When it came down to it, they stepped up big, got 2 turnovers to give their offense a chance, and when it mattered the most. And just a beautiful overall performance by the defense. I only give it a B plus because the offense could have been better. The offense really made some mistakes and shot themselves in the foot early. Like I said, if they could have corrected those and maybe played a cleaner game of football. And granted, the weather, it was raining, it was a little wet, so the conditions weren't perfect, which probably played a factor in it. But if the offense could limit their mistakes and find some more explosive players, make some, draw up some bigger plays and more explosive plays for the receivers, and probably get some running game going, then they're probably looking at an A plus. But still got a little ways to go, so we'll see.
Yeah, for me, for the Bills, I'm going to give them, I'm really on the C minus to D range. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to say a C minus, just because it's early in the season. I'm not going to be as critical for them, but if it was later in the season, I would give them a D on the grade for the whole entire team. I think overall, the offense in the first half did some very good things, which deserve B range for what they did. In the second half, they deserved F range for what they did in terms of Josh Allen giving the ball away to the Jets 4 times. That's inexcusable, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But there's some good things that I saw between Leonard Floyd as well as Greg Russo. Really liked what I saw from them. Terrell Bernard leading the team in tackles. That's another good thing that I saw. And then I really liked what I saw from Tre'Davious White as well as Christian Benford, even though Tre'Davious White ended up losing that battle on the pass from that was going to Garrett Wilson. I did like what I saw from Tre'Davious White overall. And, that's a situation that he's going to have nightmares in his head throughout the whole entire season, but I think he's going to build up from there. And so he's only going to get better. So I'm going to give him a C minus to start the year, and we'll get into our game balls that we're going to give out to the teams. And I'm curious to see who Anthony is going to give a game ball to for the New York Jets.
Game ball probably to Gibson.
Gibson, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we've had a punt return touchdown in like 20 years. I maybe we have. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the last good punt returner that I remember that us having was like Leon Washington.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
That's a
him.
throwback.
I can't remember if it was the last good one was Leon Washington or if he was before Santonio Holmes. But it's been that long.
Yeah. Oh, I was surprised you didn't give it to Josh Allen.
Game ball to Josh Allen? No, if anybody is not walking away with that game from that game with a ball, it's Josh Allen.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean,
he gave them all away.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because I'm saying that you give a game ball to Josh Allen because he gave you the game.
No, he did. Yeah, I mean, I don't even blame Josh that much for this loss. You had so many different things that weren't going well. That offensive line, I'm sorry, they got wrecked. He had offensive linemen in his lap in less than 2 seconds. They got to a point where, like I said, they stopped even trying to beat the rush, and they just started throwing offensive linemen into him. At some point, figure something else out.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Keith, give me your game ball for the Dolphins, and if you want to give 2 game balls away, if you want to do one for offense and defense, you can too. Anthony, if you have a game ball for somebody on defense that you want to give a game ball to, you can do a game ball for offense and defense too.
Okay. Game ball for special teams, obviously Gibson. Game ball for offense, Breece Hall, clearly. Game ball for defense, Jordan Whitehead.
Yeah.
How do you go anywhere else?
Yeah.
I mean, plain and simple there.
Yeah.
Give me your game balls for the Dolphins on offense, defense, and if you have a special teams player that you want to give a game ball to, you can as well.
Offense, Tua, obviously. He deserves it. He played great. 466 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He gets the game ball, and I'm going to take the game ball away from the defense and give that to Tyreek Hill because the defense doesn't deserve a game ball.
Yeah, that's
not even Phillips for that sack.
Nope.
Ending the game.
Nope. Because where was he when Austin Eckler was running all over them?
Fair.
The Dolphins should not have to score 36 points in order to win the game by 2 points.
But when they do, it's
That should not happen. Defense does not deserve a game ball.
Okay.
They need to get back. They need to get back to work this week and play better, be better.
Very true.
Anybody on special teams that you want to give a game ball to?
Certainly not Jason Sanders. No, nobody on special teams either.
Okay, that sounds good. Chris, anybody you want to give game balls away to?
On offense, I'd have to give it to Mac Jones. Mac Jones played an amazing game tonight. 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That wasn't even his fault. So he played a really poised game, kept his composure, brought the team back, even though it was a failing effort, but it was still a wonderful, wonderful thing to watch. Defense, I had to get a game ball to Christian Gonzalez. He had a tough matchup for sure with A.J. Brown, and they bullied him a little bit in the fourth quarter. Even though you don't see it on paper watching the game, you can see a couple plays where A.J. just kept feeding AJ, feeding AJ. But at the end of the day, he left it with 5 solo tackles, 2 assisted tackles, and 1 sack. So that was good to see him, rack up 7 tackles and again get a sack on the quarterback. So it was, he kind of acclimated to the NFL really well this week. So Christian Gonzalez for sure.
So for me, I'm going to give a couple of game balls away for some of the bright spots that we saw from the Buffalo Bills. My first game ball that I'm going to give away is to Stephon Diggs, because I felt like what he did out there on the field, he had over 100 yards. He deserves a game ball. He really was one of the bright spots for the Bills offense. For defense, I got to give a game ball away to Matt Milano. I loved everything that he was doing out there on the field. Even though, Anthony might dislike some of the things that he did, I love the competitor that he is out there. I don't think he's a dirty player necessarily. I don't think he was trying to hurt Zach Wilson. I don't think he was trying to hurt Tua Tagovailoa when Tua got hurt either. So I'll take that with a grain of salt because you might think otherwise. But I liked what I saw from Matt Milano, giving a major effort. And then lastly, my game ball for special teams goes out to I'm going to say it has to go to Tyler Bass because of that kick that gave me a pretty big heart attack, to take it to overtime, because I think that Visa was trying to screw us over a little bit because they played that commercial towards when the tables were turning. They played this commercial and they had Scott Norwood talking about wide right and everything. And then at the end of the commercial, the little girl gets a jersey from her grandfather, and it ended up being a Scott Norwood jersey. So that's one of the things that, I don't know if you saw that commercial on TV, but if you look back on it, go on YouTube and check out that Visa Buffalo Bills commercial because it was a really good one. But let's move on and talk about the rankings in the AFC East, and I will pull up a picture that I have, and then I'll get to Mike's comment that he had earlier. But I want to pull up a picture of the AFC East rankings real quick and just show everybody the rankings overall that we have for the AFC East. We have the New York Jets in first place at 1-0 because of the division win that they had against the Buffalo Bills. Then you have the Dolphins at 1-0 as well after the victory against the Los Angeles Chargers, excuse me. The Patriots fall to 0-1 with the loss against the Eagles. And then you also have the Bills at 0-1 with the loss against the Jets. And they are also 0-1 in the division. So that's the overall standings in the AFC East after week 1. And then I will go with Mike's comment that he made. He said, how do you guys rank the AFC East teams right now? And I'll start with Keith on that one. I'd love to know, where do you rank them? Give us 30 seconds of just go 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my rankings. And then we'll let everybody go. And we'll, at the end of everybody giving their rankings, we'll go around the horn real quick and give 30 seconds where you can counter your thoughts on the AFC East rankings.
Brett, this week of football didn't change my rankings at all. The Bills still rank number 1 for me. Dolphins 2, Jets 3, Patriots 4. The Bills are a better team than they demonstrated against the Jets. For whatever reason, they just for whatever reason, the Jets defense just kind of confounds Josh Allen. And, they're a very good defense. They confound more quarterbacks than just Josh Allen. But the Bills are a better team than they demonstrated last night. And you Bills fans, y'all are prima donnas. You guys the sky was falling on you boys last night. So, I would stress to you guys, and I can't believe I'm talking Bills fans off the ledge. What a tangled web we weave. You guys just need to relax. RELAX, like a great quarterback who just tore his Achilles tendon once said, RELAX. So, and I think the Dolphins are still the second best team in the division. And part of that comes from the fact that Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles tendon last night. I think that puts them behind the Dolphins, frankly. Great defense and a great running game. That's great. But eventually you're going to need a quarterback to win a game for you. And where will the Jets be when that happens? We don't know yet. We don't know. And the Patriots, sorry to say, Chris, I still think they're fourth.
Okay, that's okay. I'll let Chris give his rankings real quick and then go over to Anthony and then myself.
My rankings have changed a little bit. I'd give the number 1 seed in the AFC East to the Dolphins. They have a very explosive offense. I like Raheem Mostert. He's really fast, quick to get to the edge. If they can work on their line issues, and then I know in Week 5 they're going to get Jeff Wilson Sr. back, or Junior, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
When they get Jeff Wilson back, they're going to have a nice 1-2 combo just in case Raheem Mostert can't stay healthy this year. It's a tough matchup trying to guard both Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and as we can see, Tua Tagovailoa, when he's comfortable and when he's healthy, he can throw for some crazy yardage. This is not his first 400-yard game, and certainly won't be his last. And Tyreek Hill had quite a day, so he's going to be hard for defense to stop. Second place, I definitely give it to the Patriots. Like I said, they've shown a lot of improvement on their offense. I love to see what they have 2 very explosive backs in Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott. So their defense is great, hard to get by. So I think, if they continue to play together and continue to work together, they're going to be really well. They're going to be really set by the end of the season. So I put them at 2. Number 3, I give it to the Bills because I don't think the Bills are a terrible team. I think they had some rough patches, but I definitely think I've seen Josh Allen take a step back considering the end of last season and the beginning of this season. There's some major issues there in Buffalo that they need to figure out, and otherwise it's going to be a rough season for the Bills. So I don't want to hit the panic button yet, but this is not like the first rough game he's had, and it's kind of been a reoccurring theme. And 4th, I give it to the Jets. Not to disrespect the Jets, they have some great receivers. They have a great receiver. Their running backs are great. Dalvin Cook, like Anthony said, is cooked. He's not showing the explosiveness that he had. So Breece Hall is beautiful. I saw him busted open for an 80-yard run before he ran out of gas, but it's nice to see how he's recovered really well from his ACL tear. Beautiful to see that. But the loss of Aaron Rodgers was a tough loss. You never know. You didn't even get a chance to see how good that offense can be with him. But I don't trust Zach Wilson. I think the offense is going to be conservative with him, and they won't really let him play because they gave him a chance to play and go out there and do his thing, and he really let them down. So I'm going to put them 4th because I think they're going to have him more in a game manager role moving forward during the season.
Anthony, give me your perspective.
My rankings from the top, obviously, if you would have asked me in the first quarter last night who was at the top of the list, I would have said the Bills. But the fact that they played an entire 4 quarters against the Bills and they beat them. Tough game, admittedly, very difficult game. But they managed to, as a team, grind it out. I put the Jets at the top. Second team, probably the Bills. Although, honestly, I'm very concerned about them right now. I had a lot of concerns going into that going into the year, and most of them were confirmed. Osiris Torrance was really good. That was maybe your best player on offense last night, aside from Diggs. So, yeah, I have those 2. And the same rankings that I had going into the season. I have the Patriots 3. I have the Dolphins 4. I have the Patriots 3 for a very simple reason over the Dolphins. They can play defense. I was concerned about the Dolphins, because even Fangio was slacking off his players. These guys aren't very good. I'm going to do what I can, but, you can't coach bad players. And the Dolphins don't have the saturation of good players on defense They can't cover right now, especially with Patrick Ramsey. No, Jalen Ramsey out. Even Jalen Ramsey was starting to get old. Like you could see it at the end of his Rams tenure. So like, they're gonna have to get into a track meet with everybody, and I think you can do that with most of the league. But I think when you get up against a Belichick defense, he's gonna clamp you. When you get up against this Bills defense, they're gonna clamp you. When you get up against the Jets, they're gonna clamp you. Like, and let's be honest, Tua has literally never been healthy for an entire season, an entire career. And if they're down to Skylar Thompson or Mike White, good luck. So
If they almost won a playoff game against the Bills, though.
I mean, it's a game. It's a single game. Like, we have to look at the totality of the season.
That's
and
true.
What I'm looking at is 16 more games of Tua Tagovailoa staying healthy. And
Anthony,
yeah,
you're looking at 16 games of Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I'm okay. I've seen 16 games of Zach Wilson-ish football. I've never seen 16 games of Tua Tagovailoa because you were completely different teams when Tua was healthy versus when Tua was either not in or Tua came back from that second awful concussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to say too. I know we were talking earlier about who the Jets maybe need to go after if they don't, if they don't feel like rocking out the rest of the season with Zach Wilson. I think they need to go after the backup on the Titans, Malik Willis.
No, God no.
Yeah,
We don't need two quarterbacks that can't hit over the middle.
No, I think he's gonna be great. I promise you, next season Malik Willis is gonna be amazing.
If the Titans thought he'd be great, they wouldn't have drafted Will Levis. And Will Levis is terrible.
So Mike Fortin asked if Zach Wilson played a full season.
No, but he doesn't have to. Like the difference between Zach Wilson and like Joe Flacco last year was almost non-existent. One can run a little bit more, and one can stand in the pocket a little bit better. I'm settled in for the next 16 games of pretty mediocre quarterback play.
Subpar is the word you're looking for, Anthony. Subpar.
Any word you want to use that basically says the exact same thing, I'm perfectly fine with. I'm expecting the next 16 weeks to be pretty mediocre in terms of like quarterback play. Generally speaking, we're going to win this game by keeping teams under 20 and barely scoring 20 ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need somebody that's going to be an Aaron Rodgers out there for your team. All you need is somebody that's going to be the Brad Johnson or the Trent Dilfer type of quarterback that just can manage the game. That's all you really need out there. And then let your defense
Cooper Rush.
Yeah. Cooper Rush is a great shout. I'm not going to lie. I was thinking about Cooper Rush too. That dude can actually manage a game, and he's not too old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just need somebody that can manage the game, that can go out there and just, take the ball down the field, take time off the clock. But really, I think it's going to come down to Zach Wilson learning how to be a pocket passer. And you talked about it earlier, Anthony. You hit the nail on the coffin on this one. Zach Wilson likes to back up when there's some type of pressure that comes to him, and that's concerning. If he just steps up in the pocket and just keeps his eyes down the field, that's where Zach Wilson can really make an impact out there. Yeah. And if he learns how to use his legs in the good situations to be able to roll out and hit guys open, then he's going to be a totally different player. And I think he's going to see a lot from the film, what he did wrong, and he's going to make some improvements. But let me give you my perspective on the AFC East real quick, and then we will get into talking about week 2 real quick and talk about the matchups, and we'll have a fun last segment that we'll do to end the show. But for me, I'm giving the number 1 ranking to the Dolphins. Really liked what I saw from them, and I think they're explosive on offense. Their defense is, their weakness, and I think that right now the Dolphins have the lead just because of what they can do on offense. Number 2 is going to be the New York Jets. Really liked what I saw from the Jets defense. A little concerned about the offense for the Jets. That's something that scares me a little bit. But if you can get guys like Dalvin Cook to start cooking, then that's going to be a really good 1-2 punch with Breece Hall. And I am concerned with Zach Wilson being able to throw the ball not deep down the field, but get the ball down the field consistently. That's something that concerns me a little bit. But if the Jets can move the ball down the field, then I'm going to keep them at the number 2 position. The Bills at 3, I think they have a lot to prove right now. And after week 1, there's some concern, don't get me wrong, but I'm not pressing the panic button yet. There's things that we can definitely fix, and we will fix. So right now, I'll give you the number 2 spot, or the number 3 spot. And then the Patriots at 4, there's still a lot to prove from the Patriots. No disrespect to you, Chris. I think they can move up the rankings. Don't get me wrong, but there's still a lot to prove from them. And, I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the season if they do move up the rankings a little bit. I don't think they're going to get up to 1 necessarily, but I think they can move up to the 2 or 3 spot, depending on how Zach Wilson looks and depending on how the Bills look too. But right now, I think the team to beat in the AFC East, it has to be the Dolphins. So let's move on to talking about, give us a little preview. We don't want to go into too much detail on your previews, but give us a quick preview. And this is not going to be the last segment of it. I just want a quick preview of your games that you're going to have in week 2, starting with Anthony, because you don't have an AFC East matchup against another team. So give us your, week 2 preview that you have come up with in your head for the matchup against the Dallas Cowboys.
My matchup with the Dallas Cowboys is terrifying. The Dallas Cowboys just dropped 40 on the Giants, and the Giants are terrible. I have no bones about the fact that team is absolutely bad. Just they put together a weak roster and they've surrounded with nothing. But at the same time, their pass rush, they've improved their interior defensive line. Their coverage is fantastic. Like, they are scary. Their top 3 receivers are about as good as you're going to find in the NFL right now with CD, Cook, and Gallup. Gallup looks about right. The running game with Pollard is explosive. Behind Pollard, they kept Hunter Lupke, who is an undrafted free agent. That's a fullback, but they used him the last preseason game. They used him as an actual halfback, and I got to watch him for almost the entire game just pound the rock. And that dude can actually run with the football in a way that I haven't seen a fullback be able to do since, I don't know, Richie James. It's been a while since I've seen a fullback that wasn't just like Kyle Juszczyk, who's just like a check down target So they have legitimate weapons to beat you with speed and power on offense. Their Achilles heel is still going to be Dak Prescott. And if we can pressure him, we might be able to get something similar to what we got out of Josh Allen. My concern is Dak is way more comfortable taking the underneath stuff. Dak might be more comfortable taking those 15-play drives. And then, what's it going to take to beat this Jets offense? 21 points? Two touchdowns, a couple of field goals? It's not going to take a lot. I could see us losing to a team that kicked 5 field goals. I'm not going to lie, especially one with a good defense. So, it's going to be a defensive slugfest, and, which quarterback breaks first.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's going to be a slugfest on defense. I think it's going to be closer than the Jets or the Giants game, but
of course,
yeah, I mean, it's going to be
nothing's not hard.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, if you get a field goal, that's going to be a lot closer. So let's just put it that way. Keith, give me your matchup against the Patriots, and Chris, you cannot comment on this section. So let's not fight here. No arguments. Nothing. No going back and forth yet.
Well, one thing that the Patriots have always done exceptionally well is they make you play their football game. It's something Bill Belichick has done his entire career, and he's become quite adept at it. So I expect the Dolphins to be forced to play the Patriots game, which is going to turn into a slog. It's going to turn into kind of a muddy game that the Patriots are going to drag the Dolphins into the mud with them. This isn't going to be Tua putting up video game numbers to Tyreek. This isn't going to be the Dolphins putting up 36 points This is going to be a much more boring game, much less fireworks. So that's what we're looking at here. And this isn't a game that the Dolphins are designed to win. I still think they can. I still think it's possible. But this isn't a game that the Dolphins are designed to come out on top. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm watching with a couple of Patriots fans myself. My best friend's a Patriots fan, and another buddy of ours, also a Patriots fan. So I'm gonna be watching with a couple of Patriots fans, which is gonna, that's always an experience. So, we'll see how this goes. I still think the Dolphins win, but it's not going to look pretty. They're not going to do it in a pretty fashion the way they did against the Chargers. Brett, you're on mute.
Thank you, Keith. I do appreciate you telling me that because it's hard to remember taking your microphone off mute. But I wanted to say, don't give us your score prediction yet because we will do that as our last segment of the day. So no score predictions yet. But let me go over to Chris and talk about your Patriots and give me your preview of the Patriots game against the Dolphins. But first, I got to ask you, Chris, how did the Patriots get so lucky that they have back-to-back home games to start the season?
I mean, if I had an answer, then I'd probably work in the Patriots organization. I'd probably be working in New England, right? But I have no idea. I'm just glad that we do. Probably because we have the toughest schedule in the NFL, honestly. So they got to give us some type of grace. But as for the game, I see the game being a continuation of our wonderful defense. I don't think the Bills have the offensive line to stick up, to keep up with the Patriots defensive line. We've seen a lot of great defense, especially we ended the game with 3 sacks, one from Josh Uche, one from Matthew Judon, who I predict getting about, 2 or 3 more sacks this week. And, just I see him playing lockup defense and just kind of giving the Dolphins a run for their money. I think it's going to be it's going to be more explosive on the Patriots end. I think they're going to work on their defensive fumbles or their defensive blunders rather. Oh, sorry, offensive blunders. And I think they're going to come out and shock everybody and kind of like give the Dolphins a sucker punch in the mouth. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it might be a shootout. Tyreek Hill is always going to be hard to guard, but I think they're going to work on a formula. I mean, he's going to break loose a couple times because honestly, that guy has a tank. He's fast. He's kind of hard to stop. He's going to keep running all game long. So I think he'll break open for maybe a big player too. But I don't think they're just going to let him go crazy like he went last week. And I think the key is going to be really neutralizing everybody else so he doesn't go crazy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the game, and I think we're going to walk away with a W.
That sounds good. All right, I am going to start a new segment. I'm going to take Anthony out of here real quick. No disrespect to you, Anthony. This is just going to be a fun segment that we're going to do. I'm going to take him out, and I'm going to bring in the Dolphin Keith and Chris from Pat's Nation. So we're going to do this, and I'm going to let Chris start it off. We are going to do our first face-off of the year. And this face-off is going to be a 2-minute segment that you're going to do. Okay. Can't go over the 2 minutes. I will be in the private chat after your 2 minutes, and I will give you a warning at the 30-second mark when you are all done. And then you will be muted by me after the 2 minutes segment. Okay.
Okay.
That's the rules on this. Okay. No arguing backstage or anything like that. You can't argue, do anything like that. But I'm giving you 2 minutes. Tell us why you believe your team will win the matchup between the opposing team. Okay. I'm going to get off of here, and then I will put you guys in a 2-headed box. Ready? Chris, you're good to go.
All right, Keith, my friend. I'm looking forward to this matchup this week for sure. Yeah, I think definitely. I think New England. I see them run away with this win to next week or this week coming up because honestly, I think they have a little familiarity with what's it called Miami. It's not like the first time we've played these guys, and we got a couple of matchups this year. So, like I said, I think the biggest part about Miami is game planning for Tyreek Hill. If you can get away, if you can stop those quick slants and those drag routes that they have across the middle with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle going in two different directions, then I think you would kind of neutralize that. Watch for the deep passes. So I think they're going to definitely have their safeties playing a little bit pushed back. Give them a little cushion, but that can also lead for an attack in the middle, the safeties and the cornerback, which can be a little bit rough because Tyreek Hill has such explosive speed. But like I said, I think they're going to game plan them. They've seen it before, and with the pressure off the defensive line, I really don't see Tua being able to stand up in that pocket all day and get comfortable. They got too many people. I could see them rushing off the edge. Just Josh Uche rushing off the edge and Matthew Judon just making that big push. I mean, do you honestly see anybody really stopping Matthew Judon this week? Because that line is a little bit, it's a little bit in tatters this year. So I'm looking forward to it. What are your thoughts on the game?
Well, you asked me if I saw anybody stopping Matthew Judon. I didn't see anybody stopping Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack last week, and yet they were stopped, and yet they were neutralized. So can I see the Dolphins stopping Matthew Judon? Yeah, I can, because it's happened before. As far as the Dolphins defense goes, they're better than they demonstrated against the Chargers. They are a better unit than that. And what they're going to do, what they need to do is they need to stop Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott first and foremost and make Mac Jones beat them. If they make Mac Jones drop back the pass and have to beat them, the Dolphins have won this game. The Dolphins have won this game before it even started. Offensively, the Dolphins aren't going to put up video game numbers, and Tyreek Hill is not going to put up 200 yards. Tua Tagovailoa is not going to throw for 460 yards. That's not going to happen in this game. I understand that. So the Dolphins need to run the ball. They need to stick to their quick passes and take the opportunities that are presented to them with the Patriots defense. It's not going to be an easy game. It's not going to be an easy game offensively. It's not going to be an easy game defensively. It never is against the Patriots. Mm-hmm. But the Dolphins have more talent than the Patriots do on both sides of the ball. The Dolphins are a more talented team. Now, I will also say this. The schedule makers didn't do the Dolphins any favors. Made the Dolphins travel to Los Angeles and then travel up to New England first 2 weeks of the season. It's kind of cruel, if you ask me. Kind of an overcorrection for what they did to the Dolphins last year with the Bills going down to Miami and almost dying of heat stroke collectively. So, bit of an overcorrection, but I digress. The Dolphins are a more talented team. The Dolphins are going to come out on top. And they're going to figure out a way to do it. It won't be easy, but I do think the Dolphins are going to win this one.
So to your point, I don't think the Dolphins are a better team. I think the Dolphins have more big name players as opposed to New England. But I think, as we've seen with the Patriots, they don't need big name players. They have a good system. They have great coaching staff. I think the Patriots are going to, like I said, shock the Dolphins. I think offense, they have the pieces. Mac Jones, if you meet like Mac Jones sit back and beat you, I think he will. I think he showed in that first game that he has the ability to kind of sit back there and beat you. He's not the same Mac as last season. He has a better head on his shoulders. He has a better offensive coordinator. I think he's ready to prove that he is that guy for New England. So, and then we just have the running backs as a bonus because we got two great running backs. So I think Mac can beat the guys if you can sit in the pocket and pick apart that pocket.
We'll see about Mac. I mean, the strength of the Dolphins is their pass rush. If they get the Patriots to the 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 situations and let Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Andrew Van Ginkel pin their ears back and go after Mac Jones is going to look awful pedestrian.
We'll see.
So I'm going to let Anthony give his perspective real quick on this matchup because I did kick him out for a second because I wanted to get the face-off matchup. I think that was important, but I'm going to give Anthony 1 minute to give his perspective on the matchup between the Patriots and the Dolphins.
Regarding the talented comment, I won't disagree at all that they are significantly more talented on offense in terms of the skills positions, especially. The Dolphins have maybe one of the best skill position groups in the entire NFL. They certainly have the best 1-2 wide receiver group. On defense, The Dolphins are only more talented if you don't scout the draft every year. What the Patriots have done in the last, I feel the last 2 or 3 years, 3 years in the draft has done immense amounts, have dumped immense amounts of resources into rebuilding that defense to the point that it's actually quite scary. For some reason, I love Chris, but he didn't bring up my favorite draft pick that they had last year, Keon White.
Oh, yeah.
Who was an absolute nightmare in his first game. Christian Gonzalez is no joke. They have, I think, the best group of 3 young corners in the NFL in the 2 Jones brothers and Christian Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a decent set of safeties. I think they can get they have a decent set of linebackers. That team can put a clamp on. And regarding your position in terms of pass rush, what do you think the Philadelphia Eagles are good at?
Pass rush.
Their pass rushers are old, Anthony.
Really? Jalen Carter is 22 years old. How old is he?
Jalen Carter is a defensive tackle, Anthony.
Yeah, he is. And guess what he did? Rush the passer.
He's a defensive
In fact,
tackle.
I just saw the stat that he got off into Mac Jones' face faster than any pass rusher in the NFL this week. It was 0.68 seconds. He was already in the backfield. Pass rushers, by the way, can be any of the front 4. So please don't pretend like only edge rushers get sacks.
I understand that, Anthony. I've watched football.
So at the end of the day, we're talking about one team being significantly more talented on offense, one team being significantly more talented on defense. And we've seen that Bill Belichick, at the very least, can put a clamp on at least one weapon. I don't think that it's the Miami Dolphins running away with this. And we've seen Mac Jones, against a top-tier defense, put up 314 yards and 3 touchdowns. That one interception,
they're not a top-tier defense.
I think the Eagles are.
Are you talking about the team that was in the Super Bowl last year?
I'm talking about the team that's in the Super Bowl last year. The Eagles are not a top-tier defense.
That is wacky to say.
No, it's not wacky.
That is a world first right here. Somehow we put that on the board. This is a fantastic thing to put on the billboard right now. End of the year. Eagles, top 10 defense. You say no?
I say no.
Cool.
I agree. They were top 10 defense last week, and they still could not get to Mac Jones, and he still shredded them up to the degree.
Anyway, that's my perspective. I don't know who's going to win. I am leaning towards the Patriots. I think it's going to be a fairly close one. I don't think, as much as we've talked up their running game, I think Ezekiel Elliott is just a plotter these days, and Ramondre Stevenson didn't get much room to run. But then again, the Eagles do have a good defensive line. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a fun game.
Absolutely. It is. I'll give you my perspective real quick on the preview of the Raiders and Bills game. I'm going to go very quickly with that, but Bills have a tough matchup that they're going to face with Josh Jacobs as well as Devontae Adams. Those are 2 really good matchups, as well as Michael Mayer. It's going to be a very tough matchup there. One thing that I'm a little bit concerned about, which the Raiders didn't use a lot of in week 1, was their slot receiver in Hunter Renfrow. That's an area where Buffalo tends to have some issues at, and I want to see the matchup between Taron Johnson and Hunter Renfrow. And if Renfrow is healthy, he can be one of the best wide receivers out there in the league. So I want to see how that matchup works. And then as far as the defense, I'm worried about Max Crosby. He's a difference maker out there, and he's going to be going up against Spencer Brown. And hopefully Spencer Brown can learn from what he did in the week 1 and fix the mistakes that he did there. But as far as the last segment that we're going to do for the day today, guys, I really do love everything that you guys have talked about. But score predictions real quick, 10 seconds each. Give me your score predictions on your game. And I'll start with Anthony because he doesn't have a matchup against the other teams. So, Anthony, what's your score prediction, man?
Jets 15, Cowboys 13.
Okay.
See, 5 field goals. That's how we win.
Okay. Chris, give me your score prediction.
I'm going to give it to Patriots 28, the Dolphins 17.
Keith, give me your score prediction.
Dolphins 24-20.
Okay. So for the Bills, I'm going to give them the win, getting their first win of the year. They're going to win 35-17 against the Raiders. So that's my perspective. I think that the Bills are going to come out and capitalize on the mistakes that they made last week. So that's my perspective. But guys, really good show. Really loved everything that you guys brought to the table. Appreciate you for everybody for being on here as well. Keeping it right at that minute 30 mark, which is right where I wanted to keep it at. Don't forget to like and subscribe to all of our channels that we have here. We have guys from the Nickel City Mafia, Red, White, and Bills, as well as Go Bills podcast. And then when these guys here get their channels, we are going to promote them as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia and keep the notifications open so you can know when we are going to have more shows. Nickel City Mafia is growing so much lately. We have shows on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesday nights, as well as a show on Saturday and Sunday. And they're only going to grow further because they have the Buffalo Sabres that they're going to do. They also have the fantasy shows as well as golf shows that they're doing. So they're only growing further and further. So don't forget to hit the notification button so you can stay up to date with everything that's going on the Nickel City Mafia. And if you don't know our slogan, we do have a new slogan that we created. It is the slogan. It goes, where football business is, or where football family is our business. So I said it wrong to start. I got to get it used to it. It's something new to get, but I absolutely love that statement. It's actually where family business is football. That's what it is. So I said it wrong 3 times, but we got it now. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia, as well as stay up to date with all of the upcoming shows, whether it's on the Nickel City Mafia, Red, White, and Bills, or Go Bills podcast. You can find them all on the GoBillsPodcast.com. You can figure out every upcoming show, and we will keep you posted as to what's going on for week 2. This has been the AFC East Summit on Nickel City Mafia, and we will see you next Tuesday for another edition of the AFC East Summit. Until then, go Bills.
Fins up.
Pats Nation. Pats Nation.
Jet up.
I was waiting for it, guys. Come on.
That was our fault, bro.
We got to get better at that.
You got to give it up.
I think we were all waiting. We was all waiting for the next guy to go.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you next